Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Purella.
And Oz, with his beautiful Convo Couch hat on, is on the ones and twos, fam. Who got him that? Oh. How come I don't have one and Oz has one?
Take it up with the Convo Couch.
I will. I'm going to call Human Resources today of the Convo Couch and give them some lip for doing that. Okay? I will give them lip. Fam, it looks like everybody on the mainstream media is giving everybody else lip, wagging their fingers, amping up for war, puffing out their chests, getting all crazy. They've been programmed to hate Putin as a little boy and girl, and hate Russia, and now they're here, fam.
Yeah, especially there's like a lot of, no offense to anybody to present company, there's a lot of boomers that are really easily taking this whole situation, and it really makes me really sad because I understand, because that's all they knew, from back in the day.
Yep. That's all they know. I joke about Rocky IV, fam. I joke about it, but it's the truth. They programmed us in our movies to think Russia was the enemy, in our video games to think Russia was the enemy. Like Rambo 3, I rooted for the Mujahideen. I talk about this all the time because I want people to grasp for a second that they were really programming you to hate Russia. It was a long before, Russiagate, the whole situation with the stolen elections was even a thing. They were already teaching you. And that's why these people who are back in business right now, who are back running things, are the same people who started this whole conflict in 2014, fam.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about these same people, the Victoria Nulands, the Obama people, the Bidens, all of these people. And I'm excited. I'm going to start off, I'm sharing right now. That's why I'm a little bit, I'm sharing right now, but I'm going to start off by giving some updates really quickly. I just was watching the Russian ambassador to the UN, and he was answering journalists' questions, and he was basically giving updates as to what's happening. The two main things that will end this conflict, this targeted, not invasion, but a targeted military operation in Ukraine, not just in the Donbass, because a lot of people were saying, well, you're now spreading everywhere. Well, Putin initially always said it was going to be a targeted military operation in Ukraine, not just in the Donbass region. And the two things that will end this conflict are the demilitarization of Ukraine and the denazification of Ukraine. So that's what the two main asks he has. Also, going back to NATO's borders, I think it was the borders in 1979, and specifically having some sort of security that they will keep their promise, because what they're saying is that initially, when it was the fall of the Berlin Wall, there was an agreement made that NATO wouldn't be expanding eastward. But now the US and NATO are denying that such agreement ever existed, even though there are documents proving that that agreement went through. So they need some sort of reassurance that this is going to happen.
A lot of people talk about handshake deals that are not kind of being carried out or followed through with. And here's the thing too, fam. I want to point out that, number one, there is always the possibility that this could be a crazy distraction. This is theater. These are members of the World Economic Forum that are just, putting on a play to distract everybody, and stuff's going on behind doors.
Yeah.
But if you just kind of weigh everything out on the situation that it is, even just by going from what we've seen and everything, from what we witnessed in 2014 to what's going on right now, you can certainly make the justification that Vladimir Putin has every right to do this on his doorstep. The fact is that they've been killing ethnic Russians in the Donbass since 2014, since the U.S. And I'm not saying just the West. I'm talking about the U.S. We've known this. Fee has played the video twice where Victoria Nulands even says, fuck the EU. You know what I'm saying? Those were her words. This was a 100% propagated regime change by the United States itself. And with that alone, you can justify what Putin is doing. But if you want to leave justification off the table, fam, we at least got to expect that Vladimir Putin was going to do something and the Russian Federation was going to do something because it's right on their doorstep. Zelensky's talked about nuclear weapons. B, they've been killing Russians, bombing them in the Donbass region. Can you imagine some of his citizens? Because I know the U.S. wants and Western media now wants to put forth, oh, they're protesting even against Putin in his own country. No, a lot of people in Russia were like, Vladimir, why haven't you done something? Why are you letting this happen? Are you kidding me? So that's just something to take into the thought process. And the fact that everybody keeps putting up that Ukrainian flag and saying, I stand for Ukraine without knowing what's going on, fam. Not even looking back 8 years ago. It's quite sad.
It is. And so they keep saying, I can't believe you're taking Putin's side, as if this is about Putin when it's definitely not. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to just read the update as to what happened because people were freaking out. Me and Kim had a disagreement because she was like, he's a madman. I'm like, well, I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. That's ridiculous. And we were going back and forth a little bit, but it's good. It's good to have these discussions. It's good to have these conversations. I don't hate Kim. I just disagree with her analysis of Putin being this madman. I understand where she's coming from, considering the fact that when somebody goes to nuclear arms, it's scary because that would literally mean the destruction of the whole world. But the thing is, the NATO and the United States have already threatened Russia with nuclear arms. That's something that's not being talked about. Now, so what happened was that Putin put the nuclear deterrent forces on high alert. And he was citing aggressive statements made by NATO and the tough financial sanctions. And of course, also you have to look into how the entire world is basically against Russia, save a couple of nations, specifically China, that's taken more of a slightly favoring Russia. They're kind of fence-sitting this one a little bit. Yeah. And a few others like, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, the usual socialist nations, which is interesting. Like I retort to a lot of the socialists is that they're not, Putin is not a socialist by any means. So it's, there's a reason why they're doing that because they're supporting anti-imperialism. They're supporting the pushback against the empire. Now, he issued this directive to increase the readiness of Russia's nuclear weapons, raising fears that the invasion of Ukraine could lead to nuclear war, whether by design or mistake. The Russian leader, and this is on apnews.com, is potentially putting in play forces that, if there's a miscalculation, could make things much, much more dangerous, said a senior U.S. defense official. And this, of course, came as Russian forces encountered strong resistance from Ukraine defenders, literally arms by the West that are being sent to Ukraine by so many nations. So that's pretty much what happened. Now, there is a video here from Reuters where they have Putin addressing some of the reasons why he decided to go this route. So let's play
it. Russian President Vladimir Putin put Russia's nuclear arsenal on high alert on Sunday, further raising the stakes amid his military assault on Ukraine. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky remained defiant, pledging to remain in the capital, Kyiv. Zelensky said on Sunday he'd agreed to new negotiations without preconditions with Moscow, even though he didn't hold out much hope.
I do not really believe in the outcome of this meeting, but let them try, so that later not a single citizen of Ukraine has any doubt that I, as president, tried to stop the war.
Yeah. Ukraine said it continued to hold off Russian forces from capturing Kyiv and Kharkiv, its two largest cities. Footage showed of a Russian armored personnel carrier outside Kharkiv, where locals said at least one Russian soldier had been killed. An unexploded Russian warhead landed in a kindergarten playground. In Kyiv, streets were deserted except for civil defense forces and the occasional ambulance. Plumes of smoke showed where Russian ordnance landed. Nearly 400,000 Ukrainian civilians have fled the country into neighboring Poland and Romania. The Russian invasion came after months of denials by Moscow. It planned to attack Putin has called the attack a, quote, special operation. Western nations responded to the onslaught with an unprecedented array of sanctions on Russia's economy.
Our airspace will be closed to every Russian plane, and that includes the private jets of oligarchs too.
The European Union on Sunday shut all Russian planes out of its airspace. Putin thrust an alarming new element into play when he ordered Russia's deterrence forces, which wield nuclear weapons, onto high alert. A U.S. defense official said Washington was trying to assess what Putin's announcement meant in tangible terms, but that it increased the danger from any miscalculation.
Okay, so as you can see, obviously the mainstream media narrative is still calling this an invasion, while Putin has consistently, Moscow, right, has consistently called this a targeted military operation. Yeah. Also, the UN ambassador, the Russian ambassador to the UN this morning said that the notion that 100 civilians, that's being shouted out by the mainstream media, that 100 civilians are dead, Ukrainian civilians, has not been verified and is likely false, because they've been talking about the propaganda that's been put out there, which we're going to go over some of the propaganda because we'd be here all day and we went over everything. But yeah. We're going to try. I mean, it's insane how much propaganda and how many bots are out there. Yep. If you tweet anything from RT, the bots come today. I tweeted something from an RT video. I quote tweeted the video or something like that, and they were like coming at me. You could tell they were bots, but it was like, yeah.
And they do a great job with the propaganda, fam. Didn't you like the one part? There was a bomb an unexploded bomb in a kindergarten playground. Yes. And, you know, a lot of people are calling out what's going on over there as far as the coverage is concerned. Very similar to some of the coverage that they faked in the Iraq war. I don't know if you remember the whole thing where the blue screen, right? Oz remembers, right? The blue screen, I was like, oh shit, the green screen. I'm like, cut. What are you doing? We got caught. It seems like a lot of funny business like that is kind of going on. I was listening to the No Agenda podcast yesterday, and Adam Curry was calling out some stuff. And you could, like, if you start listening, like, wait a second, what's going on? That dog that's barking seems very echoey. Are they in a studio? I mean, this is something that's going on because, fam, what we've talked about is that, you know, this is not like an invasion. This is targeted attacks. This is, you will have to comply or you will get spanked. And that's what this is really what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? No nuclear weapons, no more killing people in the Donbass region. Okay. No more messing around. No more thinking that you're going to join NATO. You're on our border. If you're going to misbehave, I'm going to spank you. No more dealing with foreign entities. It's very similar to what Xi Jinping did in Hong Kong, where they throw out all the NGOs. Like, no more. No more. Not happening anymore. And that's what's going to happen in Ukraine for there to be peace. And believe you me, it's not going to be this whole freaking story with the Republicans, those neocons from the Iraq days that have come back like, these freedom fighters are fighting so hard. So you dump a bunch of AK-47 assault rifles on them and give them to the citizens. Oh, fam, I don't know if you can foresee a problem with that happening, but oops.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the propaganda. And I think one of the reasons why they get away with so much propaganda is because a lot of people alive right now were too young to remember the war in Iraq and to remember the propaganda. I mean, I barely, like, if I didn't go back and look at it as an adult, I would barely remember it. I was a child. So, like, it's just, what they're trying to do is they're trying to target a lot of the younger generation via this whole progressive, we're standing with the sovereign nation, the freedom of Ukrainians, blah, 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 because they don't know the history. Yeah. Because they weren't alive then. So it's just kind of like, it's easy for them to do that, which is why we're here to dispel that.
Yeah. So it's a privileged position, fam, right? Like, oh my God, you should be standing against both the United States and Putin when they do imperialism, this virtueness of like, yeah, I get it, but you know, certain things have happened to put us in a position where Putin's doing these moves and it should be kind of expected. I know you got to wear your little Ukraine thing in your bio over there and be all peaceful and no war is good war, but just please stop at this point.
You have to understand the history.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Plain and simple.
So the EU then proceeded to ban RT and Sputnik from broadcasting at the European Union. This is completely, this is extremely authoritarian. It's extremely draconian. It's extremely this is the excuse, by the way. They've been wanting to do this forever.
Yep.
Several RT correspondents that we know have been talking, saying that this is what they wanted to do. They have been waiting for this excuse, and now they have the excuse to execute this, to get rid of this point of view, which is the Eastern point of view, which, by the way, it's not even like these people, Rachel Blevins or Kayla Maupin. It's not like they're like told to what to say. In fact, Tara Reid yesterday in one of the panels I was in, before we did the panel, she was saying, like, I love RT. They have never told me what to say or anything like to write. I've been given complete freedom to write whatever I want. And that is something that a lot of people, on the neoliberal side or on the Ukrainian side have been saying, no, you're just told what to do by Putin. And it's like, no. A lot of these people, like on their Twitters, they say whatever the hell they want to say.
Yeah.
And so now they've started marking their accounts as Russian state affiliated media, not like their literal personal accounts, right? Which is a whole other bullshit thing that they're doing. And all these bots are starting to come in and harass them. And it's really, this is really dangerous territory that we're in, and more people need to be outraged and speaking out against this.
Yeah. Well, fam, it's what my mother first asked when I first turned her on to RT, and she like watches it now and stuff like that. And she's like, because she now peeks around, like she doesn't just stick at Fox. She wants to get other sources. She looks at some of our stuff. She looks at a little RT. She watched a little bit of Fox. She still can't take herself to turn on MSNBC and CNN. But if you think about like, okay, what RT's about, like you don't have to give anybody directions, right? Pretty much you just hire anti-establishment people, and already their narrative is all about truth telling and showing another side against the empire. So you don't have to sway anybody in any way whatsoever. You just say, okay, use the platform. If they threw you off, Chris Hedges, Larry King, all these people who've been thrown off, what's his name before he died, our boy, Ed Schultz, right? Mm-hmm. It was like, okay, I don't have to tell them anything and stuff like that. Just put them on and provide them a platform. And that's what a lot of RT is for a lot of people. When they couldn't talk against the military industrial complex or the establishment or the empire, they would get thrown out of these networks. And where would they go? They'd end up on RT, where they'd say, okay, you have free range. Do you, boo? Go ahead. Yeah.
And not for nothing. Some of the journalists that are most just like, they're the best at telling what is propaganda and what isn't, have worked on RT or have some sort of connection to RT, including, of course, Nico and, some of our friends that I mentioned there before as well.
Anya was fired the other day, by the way. Yeah.
Who?
Anya was on there for a quick clip. She was fired the other day.
Yeah, that's another one. And I mean, it's that's what I mean. Like they're giving a platform to people who are speaking against the empire. And they accuse them of spreading harmful disinformation. Right. And they didn't specify whether this ban will apply solely to television broadcasts or whether the websites will be affected. So here is a video of them just basically saying, all they're doing against Russia. Just a reminder to everybody, they're freezing the bank accounts, and they're targeting specific giant accounts of the ways that Russia will do business. However, the sanctions don't necessarily include the gas. The money that Russia, because Russia supplies gas to a large portion of Germany. So like the sanctions don't necessarily apply to that, which is something really interesting, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just play this video.
In another unprecedented step, we will ban in the European Union the Kremlin's media machine. The state-owned Russia Today and Sputnik, as well as their subsidiaries, will no longer be able to spread their lies to justify Putin's war and to sow division in our union. So we are developing tools to ban that toxic and harmful disinformation in Europe.
They have no problem, fam, being authoritarian and fascistic, do they? What do you got? What are you hiding? What do they got? I mean, I don't get this. By taking them down, you're becoming everything that you're standing up against, right? You're representing everything that you're pushing back on. you are actually becoming the authoritarian. You are becoming the fascistic way of only state media is allowed. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. And not enough people screamed and yelled and stomped their feet, fam, when they were seizing bank accounts in Canada, because this is what's happened. You see what happens? This is what happens, fam.
Yeah, and they're proudly doing it. And they're saying, you know, Putin's war and this and that. And it's clear they only want one narrative told, right? And when, again, like, even if you thought Putin was a despot and if Putin is wrong and all of this stuff, you should have the counteracting point of view. And this isn't the first time the empire has gone after press TV. They've gone after any sort of counter narrative that is presented by a non-Western perspective. And who are the perpetrators of the most interventionist wars, of the most coups? The West, specifically the United States and their NATO allies. So it's very interesting to me that the EU isn't at all talking about that. They're just, you know, saying this is the Russia, the Kremlin, and blah, blah, blah. Now, this is Putin. This is Putin talking about how the United States is the empire of lies.
Я пригласил вас для того, чтобы поговорить о вопросах, связанных с экономикой, с финансами. Мы с Михаилом Владимировичем обсуждали эту тему, имея в виду, конечно, и те санкции, которые сейчас так называемое западное сообщество, как я его назвал в своем выступлении, это империя лжи, пытается реализовать в отношении нашей страны. Ну, давайте начнем. Пожалуйста, Михаил Владимирович.
Damn. What do you think?
You're gonna
about
just get accused you're gonna get accused of just liking hearing Vladimir Putin talk. That's what they're gonna say. She just likes to hear Vladdy talk.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the accusations. She gets paid in Russian vodka. Listen to it. She's a Russian asset right now, fam.
I mean, I've been called, you know, it's funny you mentioned that I've been called a Putin bot and a Russian asset, and being told that my rubles aren't going to be worth as much now. You can go watch the comments on the video I posted, that video in particular. And it's hilarious. And, you know, you guys thought Russiagate was over. No, it's just been extended into this. It's been molded into this. And of course, who does the Western media have on to really talk about sensible analysis on foreign policy? I mean, this is the epitome of just arrogance and just complete and total American exceptionalism here. This is gaslighting. This is disgusting. You have one of the most leading voices that took us into the war in Afghanistan, Condoleezza Rice. Okay, one of the first leading, I would say, Black imperialists, right, of the era. Because I say that because a lot of people keep bringing up the fact that Zelensky is Jewish. That doesn't mean anything. You can have Black imperialism. You can have Latino imperialism. We have intersectional imperialism with the Squad. AOC has been regurgitating the same propaganda talking points. I just haven't had time to actually put them out there because she's the least of my worries when these fucking morons are trying to wage war and kill everybody at this point over their, you know, with a proxy war. Because let's understand something here. Ukraine isn't fighting for their independence and their freedom. Ukraine is fighting for the United States and NATO's interests. The United States and NATO are waging a proxy war on Russia via Ukraine. That's what's happening here. That is precisely what's happening. There's no, you know, Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. That's the fodder they've fed you, so you support some sort of sovereign independence of blah, blah, blah. But that's not the reality. This is about the United States and NATO. This is what it's always been about. So don't let them trick you about this, because this is why we have Condoleezza Rice here. Really, what she says, and I want you guys to listen to it and remember, she was one of the leading voices that took us into the war in Afghanistan. Anything you want to say, Pasta, before we go to the video?
Well, and
Oz, how long is this video?
Invade a sovereign nation, that is a war crime. I mean, I think we're at just a basic basic point there.
Well,
You're
it
dark,
is certainly
Raj. I don't
against
care.
every principle
Don't pay
of
that.
international law and international order. And that's why throwing the book at them now in terms of economic sanctions and punishments is also a part of it. And I think the world is there. Certainly NATO is there. He's managed to unite NATO in ways that I didn't think I would ever see again after the end of the Cold War.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny because Mitt Romney didn't make the cut, right? He just fell a little bit short, unfortunately, because he was the other. Like now, you have all, ladies and gentlemen, here they are. They're back. The band is back. All the neoconservatives that Fam just showed, Condoleezza Rice, who were wrong about Iraq, who were warmongers, who justified this stuff, who compared Saddam Hussein to Hitler, right? All this shit going on, ignored our involvement with Saddam Hussein, ignored all the things we were involved with, and now they're back, baby. They're back, and they're back, and they're bad, and they're going to be pushing this war. Yeah.
And they're using the same narrative. They're comparing Putin to Hitler, which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's actually trying to stop neo-Nazis from expanding because they've expanded their control in the Ukrainian government, and that is a fact. She also states something that really got to me. It's illegal to invade a sovereign nation. Oh, really? Oh, really? Afghanistan would like a word. The entirety of West Asia would like a word, by the way, Condoleezza. Yeah. I mean, this is the person, one of the key warmongers that shouldn't even be free, let alone giving commentary and analysis on war. Yep. That's literally like having a criminal talk about integrity. This is just a joke right now, what we're living in right here, right? And
it's a cartoon, is right.
It is a fucking cartoon.
Like it's somebody that should never be allowed to speak again is coming back. But that's the mainstream media. They don't give a fuck. And you know what? It's just too many people take this shit. But that's the thing.
Because they're trying to get the and I've seen it. I've seen the neocons come at me. Oh, you're just a commie. It's like Putin is not a communist at all. And then the left is like, oh, you're a right winger because they're trying to equate Putin with Trump. It's like, well, pick a side, guys, because obviously you guys are contradicting yourselves here, right? Like I can't both be a communist and a right winger. It's hilarious to me what I get called all day, but it just points to the fact that there's zero understanding of foreign policy. If there's little understanding of it within the people in Congress who hold public office, imagine how little of the understanding it is in the general public.
Yeah.
So, because we don't demand better. This is why I got so mad at that Seize the House panel when they failed. These are supposed journalists, the vast majority of them on that panel, and they failed to put in a question about foreign policy. You're not going to ask them about foreign policy while this is happening? And then, of course, what happens, we go into this conflict, and then it turns out all of the panelists and the vast majority of the candidates have the same foreign policy as George W. Bush and Barack Obama. And you're going to ask me why I was so anti that panel, why I went so hard at them, because I could see it. I could see that happening, because I'm not going to waste my time promoting any candidate that doesn't talk about foreign policy.
Yeah.
Period.
And if you don't understand foreign policy, and if you don't get this one, this is a layup. Really, this is a layup. There was a friggin' regime change, a coup in 2014, sponsored by the U.S., and you're not seeing this shit. God. This is a layup. And let's be honest too, as well. I'm not going to be part. If Marianne Williamson is part of any selection process to pick candidates moving forward after the shit she tweeted out this weekend, I ain't buying it. Like, I'm questioning it 24/7. And I did go back, fam, and I looked a lot of those candidates' campaign page, and it's really nothing about civil liberties, foreign policy whatsoever. They're just in their progressive echo chamber screaming Medicare for all, even now to this day. So what do you think about Putin in Ukraine? Medicare for all. What do you think about censorship from Twitter? Medicare for all.
Listen, we're not getting Medicare for all if we're all blown up into oblivion. So
that's it.
Get your fucking priorities straight, progressives.
Putin shots. Fuck Putin shots. $5.
I can't believe that shit. That's crazy.
And it was, Sam, you couldn't believe what they said. That's what I had that moment. I just looked at Steve. I looked at Ben, and we're all shaking our head no. And here you go. You got Steve and Ben, completely different ideologies over here. I'm somewhere in between. And we all get this because we've been paying attention to what's going on. We get this so easily. And none of us are sitting there with Putin t-shirts on going, rah, 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 Putin. We can just see what's going on and go, yo, it's got to be expected that Putin would do this on his doorstep.
Well, I hate to break it to Steve, but anarchists and communists have a lot in common, Steve.
Steve's not here.
Stay mad. Cope, Steve. Okay. So he'll listen at some point.
I know.
So I have this tweet thread that I kind of put out because there are some things that were being discussed. We sort of discussed some of them. This is what you said earlier, how many Russians were upset with Putin for not acting sooner against NATO expansion and for allowing the infiltration of these band-right fascists into the government of Ukraine, which led to 8 years of attacks. So that's what you said earlier, which is entirely true, right? The other thing is the expansion of NATO and Western influence has worried Russia for a long time. Was told that it was one of Moscow's red lines that NATO would continue expanding eastward. William Burns, the ex ambassador to Russia from the U.S. and current CIA director, said that was it. If they cross that line, that would potentially lead into civil conflict, which would then force Russia to intervene, which is exactly what happened. And the other thing that Russia has been bringing up for a long time is the ABM, the anti-ballistic missile systems, which are so close to their border. And they've been saying that that's obviously going to give an upper hand to the West if any sort of strike were to occur. So they're obviously worried about that being at their border, which these are things they're looking at when they're like talking about why they have to stand their ground on this. And the other thing, this is kind of like along the lines of where I disagreed with Kim. I said there's this pervasive narrative in Western media that Putin is some sort of madman for responding in this way. But the reality is he's just reacting to the attempt by the West to expand its hold on the region via Ukraine. And if he's being gaslit by the vast majority of the Western media, which is why I was irritated that that narrative was regurgitated by somebody in independent media, because that narrative is what's being used to blame this all on madman Putin instead of looking at the historical context that led us here, right? And I'm not saying that, nuclear war should be something that you go to. But again, we've talked about one of the things that have that led to that was because there was a threat by the U.S. and NATO with nuclear war. And Putin is no angel. Nobody's saying he is. I mean, maybe he has fans out there, but most people are looking at this who are taking our stance are looking at this geopolitically, historically. And I always put to the proposition, like, imagine if we had like Russians and Chinese, Chinese at our border with Mexico, like how quickly the U.S. would act if it was the tables were turned, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be 8 years, that's for sure. It wouldn't be 8 months.
It wouldn't be 8 months.
It might be like 8 hours later. Yeah. But if we can tap into our resources right here, the old man in the studio behind the scenes over there, Oz, I just want a really quick question I want you to answer. If you can put your mic on real quick. If you can give me a freak out level with 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, what was the freak out level when Russia, the Soviet Union, put ballistic missiles in Cuba right next to the United States? What was the freak out level of the United States at that point and our leaders, and how long did they stay there for? Can't hear you.
15 was the freakout level, which at that time, I think they invented Depends.
Okay, so needless to say, and when they put missiles over there, we freaked out. We're like, no way, you're not happening. We already have ballistic missiles in NATO on the Baltic countries there. How much more do we have to push a man on his border and put more missiles there before he reacts? And every single weapon that was used to kill ethnic Russians in the Donbass regions was provided by the West. They didn't just, enable the Nazi neo-fascist Band-right forces. They gave them the weapons to do so. Even Israel chipped in at one point. So people remember that as you put your Ukrainian flag in your bio, by the way.
And just going along those lines, a lot of academics and media personalities, including members of the UN, have said that this military operation by Putin is an illegal act. But let's go back to what has happened in recent history, because the UN was silent when the West bombed and interfered under humanitarian pretext many fucking times, including the bombing of Yugoslavia to protect Albanians from genocide. That's one of the things that happened in the past. Also, they ignored the 8 years of genocide in the Donbass region, as Pasta just mentioned, and that was precisely due to the funding, where 14,000 plus civilians deaths occurred. And you can add, of course, the incessant bombing and genocide of Palestinians by Israel, the bombing and genocide of the Yemeni people by Saudi Arabia, and the recent bombing in Somalia by the United States. But of course, that doesn't matter, right? No, there's no Somalian flags being put up, right? Like it's just, that's not happening. Where is the outrage? Why doesn't that happen? We could get into a discussion on that, but I'm just saying this is only fabricated. This feigned concern is what's been fabricated by the propaganda machine, and a lot of people are eating it right up. And again, the last one, which is I think extremely important, is that this whole event is being used to promote censorship, just like COVID was, just like January 6th, just like the general election was. And it's in the surveillance state is going to increase its power via this conflict. And it's doing it now, but it's doing it with the most approval of its citizens. And that's what they always do. It's some sort of psychological manipulation where they get you to they manufacture consent for the expansion of the surveillance state and, of course, war. And they use war to continue expanding the surveillance state. They're best friends, the war machine and the surveillance state. They're one and the same.
Absolutely. And, you know, the whole thing about, you know, with Kim's comment, going back to that, digressing back to that, the whole, I don't know if you remember this, when Bill Clinton got up and bombed Kosovo, which is kind of very similar to what we're seeing over here right now. He said that God told him to do it. Right? I mean, America's foreign policy is built on fucking madmen. It's built on crazies. Right? You know what I'm saying? This is a guy who's like, okay, they're bombing ethnic Russians for 8 years on my doorstep. They said they're going to get nuclear weapons. The U.S. is providing them with weaponry after weaponry. Maybe I should tell them that they're not going to be able to do this and show them in a quick way. It should be expected again, but it's not something of a madman when he goes, all right, you really want to play here? Arm the nuclear weapons. Obviously, he doesn't want to use them. Nobody wants to fucking use them. But at the end of the day, he's got nuclear weapons on his doorstep. And the fact that Zelensky was saying that he's going to seek nuclear weapons, it's something has to be done. It's not madmanish, but when freaking Clinton goes, yeah, God told me to bomb him. This is the foreign policy that you're standing behind right now. We don't have fucking madmen running our shit. Anthony Blinken's not a madman. Get the fuck out of here.
And so, going along with this, the hypocrisy of a lot of people in the States with these Ukrainian flags, completely ignoring, of course, the neo-Nazi aspect of it. There are videos showing crowds of Black people being physically blocked from boarding trains and being held at gunpoint by guards in Ukraine. The NAACP Chief Bishop Talbert Swan and other activists accused the Ukrainian authorities of preventing the escape of Black people stuck in the conflict-driven country, obviously in Ukraine. They said white folks in Ukraine are blocking Black people from getting on trains, dragging Black people off buses, denying shelter to Black people in freezing temperatures, and holding Black students at gunpoint. So that was happening. There's a plethora of videos you guys can see online. There's a screenshot of that. There's one where they allowed the passage of a white girl and kept the Black people out. I don't know. I mean, they're saying these videos are unverified, but they're all over the internet, multiple videos in threads. And also the Ukrainian government has said that they're Russian propaganda and that they're being made to look bad. But you said something about Poland, Pasta?
Yeah. But what I heard is that the Poland foreign ministry said no Black people allowed to come into the country. Pretty much, you know, it's you know, and I don't. We were trying to find out the laws from Hungary. You know what I'm saying? But there's no love for people of color in this area.
No, and also you can. I mean,
it's
patients too, and how they were treated in Canada as well.
Absolutely. It's you know what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, this is, you know, put that in your Twitter bios, guys. Harp on it.
Yeah. You social justice warriors. I see a lot of people with, you know, anti-fascist, really? This is what you're supporting, by the way, because when it's about real fascism and real racism, We're against that. We don't virtue signal constantly, but we're against that.
Absolutely.
Hey, real quick, can we talk about how all these motherfuckers crying about Russian imperialism when they're defending Eastern Ukraine? How they want to cry about Russian imperialism now, but they don't say shit when it comes to Russian imperialism in fucking Africa? Like, look at how much the Wagner group is trending now because their mercenaries are being used in Ukraine as opposed to when they're used in fucking African countries. Yeah, don't hear shit from those people.
Very much so.
Who is that? That was the consciousness of pasta.
That's yeah. Next time I'm going to just go like.
Is that the voice of God? I don't know.
Oh, fuck no.
By the way, speaking while another friend of ours, Glory Jones, was mentioning that stuff, when me and Glory Jones were following our good friend Tulsi Gabbard, she was one of the only few to bring up the doomsday doorstep clock. Okay, the doomsday clock. This is something we have to realize. You know, I've talked about the movie Crimson Tide. It's not nuclear war, it's nuclear holocaust because, you know, it can end humanity on this world. We can end the world. We can blow up the world 17 times from what we have in our naval fleets alone. And now the clock is getting closer to midnight. At Doom's doorstep, it is 100 seconds to midnight. Here we are is the doomsday clock as we talk about these nuclear weapons. So, and yeah. By the way, really quick, we're going to take a 30-minute break over here to listen to a PSA from the defense. 30 seconds. A minute and 13 seconds, a little PSA. Let's go full screen on this, Oz, if you can. Really quick.
What the hell is this? A turtle?
This is the turtle. This is what they told you. This is going to lead right into the next section, fam, of what you got going on because it's hysterical. And that's why I wanted to play it. This is what they were told in elementary school back in the day.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Dum, diddle dum dum, diddle dum dum, diddle dum dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and cover, ducked and cover. He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you, duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover. This is an official civil defense film produced in cooperation with the Federal Civil Defense Administration and in consultation with the Safety Commission of the National Education Association. Produced by Archer Productions, Incorporated.
Well.
Fam. Duck and cover, fam. Right? Like a nuclear blast. Get underneath your desk, elementary kids, and you'll be safe. That's what to do when it comes to all-out nuclear war. And I think it's going to lead crazy into the next section. Oz, I did put up another little 15-second commercial up there that I thought that Fee would really, really love. Fee, if you haven't seen this one yet.
Pasta, why do you keep adding stuff to Oz's thing? Come on.
Okay. Check this out, fam. Pause that real quick, Oz, before you press play, fam. Really quickly. And I'm going to read some Super Rays.
Hey there.
Hey.
No, yeah, put the commercial up.
I thought you said you were going to read Super Race.
Yeah, right after it's done.
Oh.
Guys, here you go.
Hey there.
Hey, nice spot, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's great, especially because of that thing over there. You know what's in there? Corn. Really? Wow, I could go for some corn. You're dark, Raj. I don't care.
Hey there.
Hey, nice spot, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's
That's
great,
it, that's it, that's
especially
it.
because of that thing over there. You know
That's
what's
it.
in there? Corn.
Go ahead, put a play.
What was the point of that?
Did you Did you not see that? That shit was great because that's what the war is like. They just told Ukraine, hey, look what's over there. It's cool. And they're like, all right. And they went over there and all of a sudden they just got their ass shocked for listening to the United States. I thought that was hysterical. Trey Wright, thank you so much. What's going on? Sup, fam? Sup, what's you, buddy? How you doing, man? Thank you for joining on in. 74 people right now are on the Rokfin, by the way. We have 275 on the YouTubes. If you haven't got a chance to go over to our Rokfin, please do so. It's the Convo Couch. Cam Schwari, Kate, thank you for the super great contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, fam. How you doing? Kristen Nye, thank you for the super great contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Ben Smith says, what if Nazis were at our border?
They wouldn't. Are you kidding me? The Nazis are in our government.
Yeah.
What the hell?
President Jafar, U.S. can protect their borders in Iraq, but Russia can't next door in the Ukraine. So much hate. Thank you, President Jafar. I appreciate it. Cam Schwari, Kate, when the USSR put missiles in Cuba, the U.S. had a total meltdown, and our brains have been fried since then. I remember where I was when my parents made me come home from playing with my friends, because that was the craziness, is like they would come home. Like, what do you mean come home? What are they going to do if there's a all-out nuclear war coming? Coming home ain't going to do shit. Yeah, I mean, it's like everybody was freaking out, though. That was the kind of the energy in the States, is everybody was getting nuts. That's where you saw that duck and cover shit come from. Like, it was like trying to ease the pain of all-out nuclear war. El Brillante, when I was in high school, we had to watch films about nuclear bombs, and we were assigned to design a bomb shelter in our basement. That was something else that was probably Oz can kind of like talk about as well, that a lot of people had bomb shelters in their house back then in the day, fam.
It's time to get them again, right? I don't know.
So now we got new rules for a nuclear war, right, fam?
Fam. So this is, I mean, when I saw this, I was like, every day I wake up and I'm like, nah. Is it going to get much worse? I'm waiting to see how it gets much more cartoonish every day.
If it's possible.
And I'm never disappointed, because every day there's just something more ridiculous that happens. So the Biden administration released a sort of like pamphlet thing, nuclear fallout, what to do, how to handle it, warning. But it included mask and social distancing. That's right, you guys. How to duck and cover in the age of COVID. The go-to manual now. And they specifically said you should be 6 feet apart. And they talked about how to remove contaminated clothing and blah, blah, blah. Then they said, go to the basement or the middle of the building, stay away from outer walls and roof. Try to maintain a distance of at least 6 feet apart between yourself and people who are not part of your household. If possible, wear a mask if you're sheltering with people who are not part of your household. Children under 2 years old, people who have trouble breathing, and those who are unable to remove masks on their own should not wear them. Stay inside. Social distance, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, go to the it just continues talking about stay inside, go to the basement, stay inside, go to the basement. Reunite later to avoid exposure to dangerous radiation. So now it's not just masks for COVID, it's possibly masks for radiation. So they're like combining the two. And if you go to, and this is a real thing. People thought this was a
joke. Yeah,
a joke that it was like
It is a joke, but it's for reals. No,
it's for real.
But it's a joke. It's for reals, but it's a joke.
It's for real, but it's a joke that it's for real.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. This is comical.
So this is ready.gov. And if you go, it's in English and Espanol. And it's you guys can find it. And then prepare now. Identify shelter locations. So
back to building the shelters.
So survive during blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just hilarious. Be safe after. And it goes over all the other things you can have, what a blast wave is, what radiation is, fallout. I mean, this is fucking hilarious. And by the way, why are they putting this out now? So a lot of this information was already out there, but what they did was they updated it. And you can check that they updated it. And the thing is, you can ask yourself, why are they doing this now, right? And they're doing this now because the best way to manufacture consent for war and to get you to hate a group of people is to get you to fear them.
Exactly.
And if they can get the American public, which largely is on the wrong side of this issue, at least that's what it seems like, to cheer on and go Putin bad. We need to eliminate Putin. We need to stand with Ukraine and blah, blah, blah. Yes, continue. Like Marianne Williamson was saying, please, faster, faster. Go give them more money so we can get more weapons to fund neo-Nazis so these neo-Nazis can kill more Russians. So if they can get idiots to cheer that on, then it's fair game. They can do whatever they want because it's with your consent as well. And not that they need your consent, but they do need the narrative that they have your consent. And what better way to get people to feel this way than to promote fear in them against another group of people? And that's what, this is nothing new. We just saw the duck and cover thing. This is nothing new. But because again, it's been generations, right, since this has happened. Now, the younger generations, they don't know about the Cuban Missile Crisis. They don't know about in McCarthyism the way it is now. And so, it was back then. And now it's reemerging. It's neo-McCarthyism. And so this is why they're able to get away with it. And you have to, yes, people could look at that and look and say, oh, this is scary. Oh my God, we need to take note of this and blah, blah, blah. Or they could look at it and be like, why are they doing this? Because for everything the empire does, you don't just look and read as to, okay, this is what's happening. Why are they doing this? What are the mechanisms behind this? What sort of goal would they have in mind? That's how you have to look at things coming from the intelligence community, coming from the people in power. You can't just look at things like, okay, this is what it is and this is what it says, because these people are manipulators. These people are psychological manipulators, and they're trying to psychologically fearmonger people into fearing Russians now because COVID, right? The narrative just yesterday, COVID was the thing. The unvaccinated were the thing you fear, the unmasked, the dirty, the anti-vaxxers. All of a sudden, Russians, Putin, anybody that stands with them, hate those people now. What's next? Think about that.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole thing about it is they've always kept the fear of Russia there. Now they're just exploiting it even more, right? They always had it on the back burner. Now they just moved it to the front burner and turned it on high. That's it. And they already had people in a position mentally and trained and programmed to be there for them. So, if they can always have this boogeyman, which is, Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping will be him in the future, whatever the case may be. Like we said, set aside for the fact that this can all be theater going on for the World Economic Forum. But no matter what, making sure people are divided on the fact that, that is our enemy. That is our boogeyman. We must always arm the military industrial complex. We must always build battleships and weapons and all that shit. And they manufacture consent that way by taking situations like this and just completely twisting them. And you, ladies and gentlemen, the American public, fall for it. There was a lot of people who wanted that $5 fuck Putin shot, and it was kind of scary. And some of those people who did it, were people who voted for Donald Trump. So this is not something that's a right-left issue. This is an American fucking exceptionalism issue that we think that is our enemy, and it's been our enemy for a long time.
And so along that sort of fear-mongering propaganda, what you also get is the propaganda of dismissing this very real fascism, this neo-Nazism that exists in Ukraine and that exists in the government entities of Ukraine, which is one of the things that Russia is attempting to cut. And Alex Rubinstein had this video that he put out where it's just take after take at how the mainstream media has dismissed the very real Bandrite fascist infiltration as some sort of fake news because Zelensky is Jewish. And I'm going to preface this by saying it doesn't matter that Zelensky is Jewish. He ultimately holds very little power. It's the Bandrite fascists in Ukraine that hold power. It's also the fact that Zelensky is not going to be the first or last Jew that has worked with neo-Nazis. That's happened throughout history. Just like we have Obama, who made Biden his vice president, segregationist Joe Biden, crime bill Joe Biden, arguably a racist by so many people. I don't even think it's arguable, but this is what that's the narrative they're pushing. Also, again, these people are more focused on being anti-Muslim, anti-Russian, specifically above anything, and Slovak and ethnic minorities that exist in the region. They're not just because they're Nazis doesn't mean they're primarily anti-Jewish. So let's look at how the mainstream media is diminishing the real threat of neo-Nazis in this region. By the way, the same mainstream media that tried and in many ways successfully painted truckers, working class truckers, as right-wing Nazis over one picture that decimated the internet.
Let's try and understand Vladimir Putin's strategy here. We can speak to Sergei Markov, a former MP with President Putin's United Russia Party.
How long is the video?
You're saying that the object of this exercise is to denazify Ukraine. You are, I'm sure, aware that the president of Ukraine is Jewish.
Zelensky not Nazis. Zelensky himself have read of Nazis very well. He's Jewish.
Another fact Putin seems to be conveniently ignoring, that Zelensky is Jewish, and he says his grandfather fought against the Nazis for the Soviets.
Moscow police arrested hundreds of demonstrators calling for an end to a war that Putin said was to, quote, demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, even though President Volodymyr Zelensky is Jewish and his great uncles died in the Holocaust.
I've been impressed with Zelensky and how he has stood up, and for Putin to go out there and say we're going to denazify, and Zelensky is Jewish.
If Putin is to be believed, his intention is to demilitarize the country and denazify it, which is a ridiculous term.
His terminology, outrageous and obnoxious as it is, denazify, where you've got frankly a Jewish president of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky. This guy is on his own kind of personal jihad to try to restore a greater Russia.
In explaining why he was going to invade, he said, you know what? I'm going to denazify Ukraine. I mean, take us inside the head of a spy trying to rationalize why he's invading.
He wants to win the narrative. Look, it's the height of hypocrisy to call the Ukrainian nation to denazify it. Their president is Jewish, after all.
He says that he's working to denazify the country. He's talking about Nazis in Ukraine right now. President Zelensky, as you know, he's Jewish.
It's patently absurd. There is really no merit. You pointed out that Vladimir Zelensky is Jewish. The Jewish community is embraced. It's central to the country, and there is nothing to this Nazi narrative, fascist narrative. It's fabricated as a pretext.
Yeah, even the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum here in Washington, they condemned Putin for uttering those kinds of words. Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, thanks so much for joining us.
Wolf Blitz is a little putz. They're doing it for two reasons, right? It's family. Number one, they want to control the narrative so they can continue to bomb, continue to arm, but they're also using it to provide cover, because the more people look into this and start realizing that we were funding neo-Nazis, Azov Battalion, whether Zelensky's Jewish or not, once they find out what's what, they're going to start looking at them. So they're also trying to provide themselves some cover for funding these guys for the last 8 fucking years.
Yeah, and you guys can hear how they're basically repeating the same exact thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how you know it's
elementary
propaganda.
talking points. Yeah.
Corporate media, they and those exact words have been repeated on my Twitter by a lot of leftists, a lot of supposed socialists, a lot of people, of course, a lot of like bots and all this stuff, but they're repeating the same exact thing. That's how you know it's a propaganda. It's a complete narrative fabrication. This whole diminishing, though, of a very real existence of Nazis, pasta irritates the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Because again, we get called Red and Brown Alliance.
Red round.
And we
round
get
bread.
called, all these things. And it's crazy because we don't want to hyper focus on a Trump supporter or a dumb Proud Boy, which is full of feds. And we look at the people in power. And the moment there are actual neo-Nazis that we are funding, these people are like, whatever. And let's focus on the trucker some more, or let's focus on the Trump supporter over there, or let's call Putin a right winger, because that's it. Trump said something positive about Putin. That means Putin is in bed with Trump, and that they're together. And it's this whole narrative, right?
Yeah.
And it really irritates me because they're not even hypocrites anymore. They're complete and total liars and complete and total lunatics for continuing to ever talk about some sort of, I'm an anti-fascist. while I have a Ukrainian flag next, and I'm repeating State Department talking points and defending neo-Nazis. I'm dismissing that. Imagine if we were actually dismissing neo-Nazis right now, and they were on the other side of the narrative. What would we be called, right? I already get called like the worst names, and it's funny because and they use people like, they're like, yeah, she's a person of color, but it doesn't matter. She can still be a Nazi. And I'm like, okay, it's just like it's just the hypocrisy is astounding. It is next level, and I'm so done with it.
Yeah. Well, fam, I don't know what to tell you, because every single time we go through this thing, we say our life is like a cartoon. We live in it and just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And this is something we've been talking about for a long time on the show. We were in our first 8 shows in the old school studio. We talked about this several times. So, I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point. I don't know how we're going to convince anybody differently. I'm just going to go through the steps, step by step, try to talk to people about this, try to explain this to them. And everybody should out there too as well. Share these videos. We had a great video the other day on Friday. It is 40 minutes, but it's everything you need to know about Ukraine and Russia. Share it. Let's just get the information out there. This isn't, you don't have to dig too far. You don't have to go back too deep. And let me tell you something. RT this whole weekend has been showing like the history of the Ukraine. From the late 60s is when they formed the country. By 1991, fam, they've already ratified and changed their constitution 3 times. It's been a fucking mess there for a long time. And that's before 1991. And the United States, believe it or not, got involved in 1991, got involved in 2004, got involved in 2014. We've always been sticking our nose in the Ukrainian butthole. And now it's stinking, and for a reason, because this shit's out of control. But I mean, people have to look and see Americans' involvement to see it's just very simple what Vladimir is doing, because at this point, he's going to say enough is enough. And how long does he let it go before he says enough is enough? And to see everybody fall in line, to see how everybody is so uneducated. People who I thought, it's like we talked about in our masking when it came to, all right, maybe January 6th, forced to vote, COVID stuff. Now, like seeing people, I told people I was very surprised at some people's takes on this, and the general population, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't even know what the fuck's going on. It is scary to say the least.
Yeah.
It's scary to say the least.
It's very disappointing, and like it makes me want for the asteroid. It makes me look back at all the religions that were like saying that humanity failed at some points and they had to get rid of them. It makes me think like, are we at that point now? I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's getting ridiculous because Vanessa Beeley posted this, and this is now more of the propaganda that we're going to show here. You guys remember Ahmed Tamimi, the little girl that fought against the IDF soldier and told him to go home? She was just a tiny little girl. Well, she's 21 years old now, but look at what this person posted. Go back to your country. Brave little girl confronts invading Putin army. Hashtag defend Ukraine. Hashtag Ukraine-Russia war. Hashtag Ukraine. This is from FR News now. That this news outlet shouldn't be taken seriously, first of all. They still had it up last I checked. They didn't take it down. They didn't issue a retraction. And they blocked people who called them out. And so Vanessa said, LOL, this is getting ridiculous now. This is Ahmed Tamimi, Palestinian girl confronting Zionist thug. This video is old. It's 10 years old at least, and it's older than the person's Twitter account that they were posting it from. But this is how uneducated the public is. And this is how they get away with this propaganda. This is why the Russian ambassador to the UN was saying we can't trust anything that the media is reporting, because they're reporting a lot of things that are completely untrue.
Fam, by the way, before this video plays, like we talk about the emotional left, how you get them on the emotions. This is a tactic to get also the emotional right, because this is something Mitt Romney's been talking about. These Ukrainians, they're fighting off the Russian forces, and these are everyday people, mothers, fathers, daughters. Look at this as they're fighting off these these forces. And that's what gets a lot of people, a lot of conservatives as well. This is the emotional conservatives. They're going out. So take a look at this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can just put it on. We talked about this video a few years back. I remember we've talked about this video a few years back, and multiple times, and we even brought up what she was like now when she was in jail, and it's just how they rely on the ignorance of people, but you're right. They also appeal to the emotions. Also with the Republicans, if you notice on one of those, the thing we just showed with Alex Rubinstein, the video, they say Putin is trying to put his own jihad. Like they use the same he's just like another jihadist out there. They know exactly what they're doing. Yep. Here is another side-by-side comparison, right? This one on the right says captured Ukrainian soldiers in Nikopol, which I believe is that's the reality. While on the left, it says captured Russians in Nikopol, as they say in Russia. First of all, it's beautiful. Stand with Ukraine.
Wow.
So it's hilarious to me. It's like choose the person who tweeted this said it's like choose your own ending. You know, Goosebumps had those books like you can choose your own ending or whatever. It's literally like that. So pick whichever one you like. That's the media that's being promoted by these bots and these factories and these fake media companies. Where's Glory Jones?
She's here. She's listening.
So Glory had this tweet and she said, "Oh, don't let me interrupt you scrolling through relentless propaganda with some not at all casual Islamophobia from some neo-Nazis. Lord knows the oligarchs only laugh as they don't bear the costs of war and people cheer on the funding and arming of neo-Nazis for fuck's sake." Okay, so this
out on the Congo couch.
So this is a video of the Azov fighters of the National Guard greasing the bullets with lard against the Kadyrov orcs. Like, these are very racist people. These are very, they have an agenda. They don't like certain ethnic groups. This is what the United States government and a lot of these morons are standing with. And so we'll play the video. We'll play 30 odds. This is the video showing, again, another great post by Alex. Alex has been killing it. Alex Rubinstein on this. So he basically posted this video where it's his name is Yevhen Karas, who is the leader of Ukraine's neo-Nazi terror gang, the C-14. And he posted this speech from Kiev earlier in the month, which straight from the horse's mouth, he dispels the many narratives pushed by the left, the mainstream media, and the State Department. So let's listen to what he says. He flat out tells the truth about who they are and what they stand for.
Стільки зброї не тому, що ми хороші, як нам кажуть, нам допомагає Захід, бо вони хочуть нам блага, тому що ми виконуємо задачі Заходу. Тому що ми єдині, хто готові їх виконувати, бо нам весело, нам прикольно убивати і прикольно воювати. І вони думають, вау, давайте вже подивимося, що це буде. Тому виник цей новий альянс, про який зараз говорять там Туреччина, Польща, Британія, Україна. Тут ми тут флагман, тому що ми затіяли війну, якої не було вже останніх 60 років. Так от, уявіть собі, скільки в нас зброї, скільки в нас ветеранів. А тепер уявіть, зникає Росія, вона розвалюється. Тут виникає там 5 Росій, там ні до Росії і так далі. На європейському континенті найбільше, тільки в Британії там, здається, більше. Ви розумієте, цей потенціал цих збройних сил, це стане проблемою зразу для всіх, хто зараз нам десь там намагається робити хенькі уколи. І оце от є наша радість і наша печаль. Чому, щоб ви розуміли, чому так все важко? Не тому, що ми, українці, 300 років, наша дупа страждала, чому ж нарешті влада до нас не впаде, ми такі хороші, ми хочемо в Європу. Ні, це величезна, потужна держава, і якщо ми тут прийдемо до влади, це буде і радість, і проблеми для всього світу. Тому це величезна, амбітна задача. Ми живемо дуже в класний час, і тому перед нами стоїть надзвичайно амбітна, класна ціль. Не просто стати там частинкою європейської сім'ї, яка вже там розвалилася, а це є, вже йдеться про те, що нові політичні альянси вже глобального рівня, нові політичні виклики.
Damn, I couldn't see that. I'm not going to lie. I was trying to squint and read that and stuff, but...
Ключовим фактором однозначно і на фронті. Зараз дуже багато є спекуляцій. Ну, нацика вже ж було небагато, там, ну, ЛГБТшники, там, посольства кажуть, ну, скільки там було там нациків? Ну, нациків там було там 10% там, ну, запаяних ідейних. Ну, це ж питання в тому, це може так казати лише Йов, який не був на війні, не знає, наскільки оцих от 10%, хоча там навіть може дуже менше було, я думаю, націоналістів було хай там навіть 8%, ну, наскільки це в пропорції ефективності впливу, наскільки це складало просто галопуючи безкінечну підвищення ефективності. Не було б цих 8%, бо ефективність упала на 90%. То тут не в числі мова. Так само, як на Майдані. Зараз вже почали ліваки, там, фонди Бьоля, там, і так далі перераховувати. Ну, націоналістів там було, там, да, вони були впливові. Там. Та які впливові? Не було б націоналістів, все би це от пішло б сразу на гей-парад.
Okay, so...
Help me out, fam.
Yeah,
read it.
so some of them, I thought you knew Russian pasta. I'm very devastated that you don't.
I picked up words. I
should have, got a co-host that knew Russian.
I couldn't piece it together. Sorry. I know somebody.
So basically, he pretty much said, we enjoy this. We enjoy killing. We're not just, some little Ukrainian, small state trying to gain power. When we gain power, we're going to be very big and we're going to cause a lot of problems and a lot of joy. He also stated that they are not just going to, at the very end specifically, he was talking about how even if they're only 10% of the government control, they have the most power. And it's not about the numbers, but it's about the power that they have within the Ukrainian government. Because a lot of the things that have been coming from the mainstream or from the, anti-Putin, the neo-Nazis are nothing. They're only like 10% and they don't matter. And it's not the whole Ukrainian government. Look, it's such a small number. You're acting like, it's like the United States. No, he's literally telling you these people have an agenda to take over the entire Ukrainian government, that they enjoy this warfare, that they aren't worried about the numbers because they have the most control and the most power. So he's literally pushing back against the narrative that a lot of the left is trying
with
to
the
create,
truth.
that these people are just a small minority. It's hilarious because when we say that here about the Trump supporters, which is real, like they're not the majority, like the Trump supporters might be, more of a right-wing populist thing. But when we talk about real racism, it's the minority of people. The real fascists are really the people in power. And so when we say that, these idiots are like, no, you're just dismissing blah, blah, blah. But when it's actual neo-Nazis, they use the same exact excuse, but this time is an excuse because what we're talking about is in a country like Ukraine, that is a very big portion that has a lot of power. So it's not a huge portion, but it's a small group that has so much power. So the numbers
They have
don't matter.
power. That's the problem.
The most funded.
Yeah.
They're the most well-funded and they have the most support by the West.
Yeah, they're the ones who have no problem going and killing ethnic Russians. Those are the ones that, they historically from the Banderites, they have power. They're infiltrated to every part of the military, the Congress, the police force. They're in every aspect of that government. So to say they are actually, Nazis with power, you're not lying. You're simply just telling the truth. The Azov battalion, a lot of these Banderite fascists have a lot of power within this Ukrainian government, especially since it fell in 2014.
Right. 100%. And just to end this propaganda, here's the meme, guys. Understand, you're being propagandized constantly. The media wants you to focus on certain things, whether it was the election and cheering on for Biden, who was going to get rid of all the bad things and renew the spirit of our democracy. I'm so glad he did that. And then to COVID and just following that narrative along. And of course, now COVID's over, I guess, sort of, I don't know. Now it's like, Ukraine, you must support Ukraine. You must hate Putin. You must hate Russia. This is how narrative management happens. This is how propaganda is made. You're constantly being propagandized. Always, always, always question everything.
Yep. Guys, 113 people watching on the Rokfin, only 61 thumbs up. What is with that, guys? Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. We have no trolls today. We miss our trolls. Send them our love. Hit the share button. Get it on your Facebook. Get it on your tweeters. Clip it up. Put it wherever you got to go. Share the link out there. 113 watching on Rokfin right now. Remember, we're going to have one section today. That will be Rokfin only. That's the last section. 316 watching on YouTube's. Guys, do the same thing over there. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that share button. We're getting suppressed as could be. We don't even get put in the queues anymore. We know that, but we're going to put this information out wherever we can, however we can, whenever we can, because we believe that it's important to get it out there no matter what and have the conversations that you're not going to hear in the mainstream media. Thank you for the Rokfin Super Ray contribution from the Mad Wolf. So if the blast won't get you, the radiation will. And if the radiation won't, then starvation sure will. Remember, Mad Wolf, duck and cover. Your desk is not going to save you, but duck and cover. President Jafar, thank you. They called Trump a Nazi for 4 years, and now they're allies of Ukrainian Nazis. Go figure, fam.
Go figure, fam.
Leonard Trust Fund, thank you. Love you guys. Stay strong. Thank you, Leonard Trust Fund. And from Angel Santos, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Hit that like button, guys. Share, like, subscribe. Do what you can do. We love you and we appreciate you, fams. So let's get on to the next section. We got one more section before the last section. Remember, the last section will be a Rokfin only section. But right now, we have another section to get into. I'm going to start off with Black and the Empire's tweet over here because this is kind of interesting. We've been saying this for a long time. Because as people start diving into Ukraine, there are going to be some people that are going to be, holy crap, this has been going on for a long time. We actually supported a coup in 2014. And yeah, guess what? Yeah, guess what? Any of you Democrats start thinking about how Hunter got that seat on the board of the energy company in Ukraine or why they would want to give him it yet? Why would they want to give him that spot? You know, he was never involved in oil or anything like that, but he got a lucrative, fluffy job. We all know Joe Biden. He went on Council of Foreign Relations. He bragged about it. I got rid of the guy. He was gone. Otherwise, Ukraine's not getting the aid. I've said this before. I'll say it again. The United States and their foreign policy use Ukraine like a toilet bowl, peeing and crapping all over it, not giving a damn what happened to it, not caring about the repercussions the people of Ukraine would eventually have to pay back for poking the grizzly bear, the Russian bear, on their borders. They didn't care. That's why we played the crows. They went in there. They all benefit from it, fam, financially and whatnot. Do you have anything to say about the tweet before we get into it?
No, go ahead.
So this is the meme that kind of went crazy, and a lot of people debunked this meme because there is some truth to it and there's a little falseness to it as well. This was the meme that everybody went and was like, Snopes debunked and says, what are the odds of 4 people all having children working for Ukrainian gas companies? Well, the reason why they were able to debunk it, fam, is because it wasn't actually direct sons. It was not actually, we're going to explain it. They weren't like actually, it was a stepson. But they all had interest involved. They did all have money ties in the Ukraine. Let's start off with Hunter Biden. We remember the New York Post, right? Hunter Biden says taking a seat on Burisma board was no mistake. With a straight face, he said it. Believe you me. Hunter Biden on Sunday insisted it was not a mistake to take a lucrative seat on the board of a Ukrainian energy company while his father was overseeing U.S. policy to battle corruption in the country. To battle corruption? Yeah, to insert corruption. In the tearful interview on CBS Morning News, the president's son, Hunter, also claimed he couldn't remember leaving a laptop at a Delaware repair shop, which became the center of a post-expose about his dealings with the natural energy firm Burisma, and insisted he would 100% be cleared of a federal probe into his finances, fam. We talked about this.
Yes, we talked about this ad nauseum, but also to remind everybody, this information was taken off Twitter during the
campaign,
election,
presidency.
because it was happening during the election. And Twitter, that's when a lot of us were aghast at what was happening. We said, how dare Twitter remove this? This is absolute, like, why? Just because they don't like it? Because their people don't agree with the narrative, because they're backing this Democratic candidate? This is crossing a line, right? It's a very, very clear line. And after that, more lines were crossed. Yeah. And there you go. Twitter can control and take out what they don't like, what they think is not right. And they took down that post. And that was one of the things that really, people weren't even, they were saying that it was fake news, that this is just an attempt by Trump to smear Joe Biden. But we were like, no, it's not. And guess what? We got called Trump supporters, right-wingers, for simply talking about the truth. And we kept saying, no, this has happened during the time right before Joe Biden was putting corruption in the government, backing neo-Nazis in Ukraine. He put his son, Hunter Biden, on the board of Burisma. And he was hardly the only Democrat to do it.
Yeah. Because as remember too, as well, they were trying to impeach Donald Trump for a phone call with the Ukrainian president and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? They had already committed sin. Here's another one breaking first. Pelosi's son now involved in Ukraine scandal, Democrat Party in shambles. Opinion. And that's Hunter Biden move over. That's the opinion. Nancy Pelosi's son may be looking to center stage with the Ukraine controversy. Paul Pelosi Jr., the son, spent time in Ukraine in 2017. Notice, fam, it's after 2014, right?
Right.
Boom. Nancy Pelosi's son, Paul Pelosi Jr., went to Ukraine in 2017, was a board member of Viscoil, an executive, and his related company, NRG Lab, which did energy business in the Ukraine, fam. You got a new friendly government. It's friendly to the United States. We got Hunter going. Well, Nancy's like, well, what about my son, Paul? Can he get in the act? Of course he can. There you go, Paul. Go into the toilet bowl, the toilet seat of Ukraine and do business. Go ahead, fam.
I got to give it to Nancy. She knows how to use the men surrounding her to make her more money.
Yeah.
I mean, she's her husband with the stocks and her son with Ukraine. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, she knows how to. I'll give it up to Nancy. She knows. She knows
how to make money.
She does.
The queen of corruption, a husband with Tesla and Apple, then all of a sudden they got contracts, Tesla the next day, the stock shoots up. They got money in Ukraine while they got the friendly government there. You know what I'm saying? And then when you hear pigs like Mitt Romney go on these Ukrainians, I admire them so much for standing up to these Russians. I said it years ago. You laughed at me. And Obama made fun of me when he said, the 1980s called and they want their foreign policy back. Russia isn't the biggest threat. Well, who's right now? Well, top Romney advisor worked with Hunter Biden on the board of the Ukrainian energy company. And this is something where they got the fact wrong. It wasn't his son. It was an advisor, and he had people right there. As Democrats and the media remained fanatically obsessed with the assembling some form of a quid pro quo from the infamous Trump-Zelensky phone call, which we're talking about, new details have emerged regarding Burisma, the company for which Hunter Biden worked, and the company that Ukraine's top prosecutor had been investigating before Vice President Joe Biden had the prosecutor fired. Remember that? We ain't getting the money via a months-long pressure campaign. According to Web Archives, top Mitt Romney advisor Joseph Coffer Black, who publicly goes by Coffer Black, joined Burisma board of directors while Hunter Biden was also serving on the board. So that's the connection for Mitt Romney. His people were in there. I mean, it was terrible that Trump made this phone call. If you don't remember, Romney was one of the Republicans, kind of like he was like almost like a Lincoln Republican, where it was never Trump and whatnot. It was awful, but he had connections himself to people involved with Burisma, not his son. So that's where Snopes was able to go, oh, it's false, and kind of go away with it because it was the loophole, because technically his son was not involved in that particular situation. However, if you look at this Environ News, Josh Romney exposed Mitt Romney's son tied to stinking controversial of oil waste pit. So he is involved with some deals. They were going after him for another situation, whatnot, like father, like son. So it wasn't a direct involvement, but, it is an involvement. Some of his top advisors were working in Ukraine along with Hunter Biden. They were all in it together, fam. They all prospered. And yet nowadays they're going to come back and point the finger at Vladimir Putin for what's going on in the Ukraine.
Exactly. And it gets worse with Kerry too, right?
Yeah. Well, Biden's son, Kerry's family friend, joined Ukrainian gas producers board, and there's a picture of them at a basketball game or something right there, as Obama, Biden, whatnot. And see, it wasn't his son; it was his stepson's close friend. It's from the Wall Street Journal. Vice President Joe Biden's son and close friend of Secretary of State John Kerry's stepson have joined the board of the Ukrainian gas producer controlled by the former top security and energy official for disposed President Viktor Yanukovych. Yanukovych. Yeah, Yanukovych. Thank you so much.
That was the one, if you guys recall in the video that I played with Victoria Nuland, that's the one they got rid of to put their own puppet. So.
And he wasn't like crazy pro-Russian. He was actually looking into getting in a deal with the UE, didn't like it, backed out. They said enough is enough. We're not going to wait around for him. They try to kind of do the same thing to Lukashenko in Belarus, but it didn't work. It did work in this situation. And Victor had to flee. He was also one telling Putin, you need to intervene like immediately from what was going on in the Donbass right off the jump, saying you need to get involved because these people are going to be massacred. So that's another one. But
they discounted the meme on technicalities, but really the connections are there between the families. Just to reiterate that point, that those connections are there between all of these wealthy Democrats and a Republican as well.
Yep. It's establishment, fam. You've said it before. It's the establishment. And we know who these guys are on the right. We know the Mitch McConnells, the Mitch Romneys, the Lindsey Grahams. They're riding and dieting with the Chuck the Schmuck Schumers. They're riding and dieting with the Nancy Pelosi's. This is professional wrestling. These are the buddies. These are the friends. You know, they've been silent when it comes to a lot of COVID stuff. They've just been in the bushes, like not saying anything. They were silent when it came to election stuff because they also benefited them because they had their elections bought in their sections as well, right? There's a lot of accusations about that. So, you know, it's here they are. But I don't want to forget about my favorite fam, and I know your favorite, Mr. Adam Schiff. This is a taste of the Ukraine reception. This is by Igor Pasternak. And people are like, who's Igor Pasternak? We'll get into that. At the home of Easter Pasternak, who has a home in D.C. as well, we're going to have the Taste of Ukraine reception, which was a fundraiser for Adam Schiff's campaign, right? For Adam Schiff for Congress. And this was at 38 Ivy Street, Southeast. And it was $2,500 a plate, fam. I think if you want to get into cocktail hour for $1,000, you can do that. But if you want to eat dinner with Adam Schiff, your representative, it's going to cost you $2,500.
Let me just get my checkbook out.
Please, fam. It's Adam. And this is the Independent Sentinel. It says Adam Schiff's Ukrainian oligarch friend. Fam, it's good to have an oligarch friend there. Adam Schiff has ties to the Soviet-born businessman Igor Pasternak, who has raised money for his campaign, whose company has received lucrative defense contracts from the Ukraine government. This was after 2014, fam. He got those things. That man is Igor Pasternak, the founder and CEO of Worldwide Aeros Corp, which makes blimps for military and commercial customers. He is also involved in weapons manufacturing, working with the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense to produce modified version of the M4 and M16 rifles, according to reports. In 2013, Pasternak hosted a fundraiser in Washington for Schiff, who later came to embrace a strong stance in the United States, sending military aid to Ukraine during its conflict with Russia. Before that, Adam Schiff, he never did. After that, he demanded we send arms to the Ukraine. Ukraine has been named the most corrupt country in Eastern Europe after Russia, but that doesn't stop the Democrats from making Ukrainian oligarchs out of their children.
It's just a coincidence, fam. It's just a coincidence that in 2013, there was this meeting, and then thereafter, Adam Schiff was like, here's some money for my Ukrainian friends.
Yeah.
It's coincidence that this oligarch donated money to his campaign for re-election. Total coincidence that wouldn't ever influence his politics, his stance on foreign policy or anything like that, because that doesn't happen in the United States. I mean, this is a conspiracy because this is what these people are going to say. You're just making these connections. This is how it works. You always have to follow the money. It's very easy if you just follow the money, if you follow the connections of these people. And if you look at history while you follow the money and you follow the money's history, this has been there all along. And if you look at the players who are pushing this anti-Russia, anti-Putin, this is Putin's war, let's stand with Ukraine, it's the same goddamn people.
The same.
Who are involved in this. Same exact one.
It's easy to catch, fam. It's easy to catch. You know, yesterday, me and Steve were in the car. We were driving back. And all of a sudden we were listening to Tim Dillon. And, you know, it's a shame that a lot of people have been duped on this. They don't understand what's going on. We've been talking about this, both our networks, both our channels for quite some time. I'm looking forward to the show with Corey Morningstar and is it Eva Bartlett or Vanessa Beeley?
I think it's Vanessa Beeley.
It's Vanessa Beeley and Corey? It's Vanessa Beeley, you know what I'm saying? Yes. Well, I know Eva, we got to get in contact with her too. She's amazing as well. But, you know, I'm looking forward to that show and to see what's going on and listen to it. But, you know, they were talking about this for a long time. We were talking about this for a long time. We had our eye on this for quite some time. So when it came around, it was very easy to call out the bullshit. It's just a shame that nobody else is with us here. And these things, we talked about all these things fam, years ago. All of these that we just talked about, the connections of the dirty hands of the. In fact, that's why I was so against the when they were trying to impeach him the first time. Remember? And I was pissed off. And I'm like, how dare anybody? And I was mad that Tulsi in the beginning was like, I'm going to stand for the impeachment too at first. And then she retracted, because if anybody stood behind the fucking the mechanisms of regime change, and then are going to sit there and say, oh, we're going to stand behind the Democrats who have turned Ukraine, the establishment who have turned Ukraine, because we also going to remember, what's his name, McCain going over there. He was part of the whole rah, rah, rah for the Republicans and going to speak to the Ukrainian people. The establishment turned this place into a hell zone. And who really pays for all this, fam? Not you, not us. The people of Ukraine are the ones who are going to be suffering. And it didn't make a difference to a lot of these establishment candidates and characters what they did. They didn't care about the Ukrainian people. And look what they're going through today. It's their fault. This is disgusting. And they need to be called out. All these receipts have been there for quite some time, ladies and gentlemen. All these receipts, we've talked about them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is, again, we're repeating information here, but I think some people need to
hear it again.
They need to hear it again to make these connections that we've been screaming about for a while. But it's a good refresher, fam. It's been a while since we discussed this. Again, there are ties to this company, Burisma, a lot of these Democrats, some of these Republicans, and specifically, they made a ton of money on this, funding neo-Nazis in Ukraine, and they're still doing it. We're still sending arms. And those arms are primarily going to neo-Nazis, yet again, and they're trying to manufacture consent for war, proxy war with Russia via Ukraine, because that's what this is about. This is not about Ukraine's independence or about Ukraine's freedom. This is about the United States and NATO getting what they want, and they're ready to kill people and start a nuclear war if they have to. Go over this. This is what it's about.
Anything else, fam? We can get to the next subject before we. All right, guys, I'm going to read this Super A. What's that?
So that's pretty much all our 3 sections on Russia, because it's such a big deal. It's such a big thing that's happening, which is why we're spending so much time on it. The propaganda is insane. So that's why. But now it's COVID.
Christopher Dobby says, curious, Katie Halper has on Chris Hedges to talk about the Ukraine conflict. Then she brings on another guest who happens to go on to discount Azov interrogation into the Ukrainian military. And many thanks for your reporting. There's not many able to not suffer the BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, there's 100. Sorry about that, fam. You were saying?
No, I was just saying, I agree. This is.
All right.
I don't have to tell you. I mean, and I'm not saying cancel these people. I'm saying hold them accountable. I'm saying if you watch their shows, be like, why are you doing this? Why? I loved it when they had to seize the House panel bullshit, and all the comments were like, this is bullshit. Why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. That's why I said, go look at your comments. Listen to your audience. Listen. Why is your audience telling you that this is bullshit? And, instead of coming at me, like, listen to your audience. Yeah. Like, your audience is done with this shit. Look what's happening now. Look where we're at right now. You want to still just regurgitate Green New Deal, Medicare for all, without any sort of plan to get it under this current system with these corporate Democrats that are involved in creating and inventing and just managing coups and interventions and narratives all over the world. You want to really, it's like you're operating at a different dimension. Like, yeah, hold them accountable. Go ask these people why they're not talking about these things that we're talking about. Because it's work for someone.
On YouTube, somebody says, tell them, Fee. By the way, is somebody managing the chat over there? Please make sure you're managing the chat. Where's Jilly Love? You there, Jilly? Is Jilly with us today?
Listen, Jilly is entitled to a day off, okay?
Maybe Jilly might be having a day off. I didn't see.
We need more mods.
But Jilly's the best.
Jilly's
I love
there.
Jilly. Jilly. I don't know what you're thinking about that one. Oh, okay. She okayed it. She gets to decide. Halper is writing her fence, fam. That's what Larry Fine says. She's writing the fence, and a lot of people are trying to do that. That's where this whole comes from. You could be against Putin when he tries to do imperialism, just like you can be against the United States when they try to do imperialism. Like, listen, I get this whole wonderful world when you want a virtue signaling and saying any type of military intervention is bad, but you can't just say that fucking now. You should have said that 8 years ago when they're bombing kindergarten classes in the Donbass and they're running into their goddamn basements. Where were you then? And you can't just say that in the middle of this. It's like you're a child wandering into a middle of a movie to give your opinion.
And they're making opinions based on like knowing nothing. Bam, we need to go to Russia. We need to go to Ukraine.
I agree. We need to go over we need to go to.
We gotta do it. Let's make it happen.
We gotta go to Crimea, and we gotta talk to people of the Crimea, and then we gotta go to the Donbass, because the Donbass is gonna be one of the safest places for the next couple of years once Putin gets a hold of it. You better believe they're not gonna shoot a bottle rocket over there.
You are such a Putin bot.
You're gonna piss off the fucking bear. At one point, he's gonna say enough. He's gonna say it in Russia, fam. Niet. See, I know my Russian. President Jesus says Katie is trying to walk a line. Tell it fee is what somebody said. Halper is just trying to make sure she gets and maintains access.
I'm not gonna make any assertions of that, but what I will say, it is incredibly telling to me what people are supporting. Either they're ignorant or they need to understand the subject better, or there's a for-profit motive, because the information's there. We're not making this up. The information's there. These things that we're talking about are fact. They happened. History, it happened. You can't say it didn't happen. This isn't a theory. I think it's because what happened in 2014 with the Maidan coup is what happened. That's literally what happened. We can't make that up. You can go back and Google even now and you'll find it. You'll find it, of course, like they whitewash it. It's just right. Ultra nationalist, blah, blah, blah. They won't call them bandera fascists. You have to go to DuckDuckGo to actually find the articles that talk about the bandera and the bandera fascists. And you have to do that. But you can find this information. We're not making it up. There's no it's a difference of opinion. No.
Yeah.
There are facts. It's funny. This is the believe the science. I believe in science. Believe the fucking facts then, guys. Come on. In general.
You could also, fam, just go back and watch old school episodes of Slow News Day and the Convo Couch years ago when we were talking about this shit, showing you all the receipts. We bring all the receipts to the table. So, I mean, the MCSE network has been great about this too as well, and it's one of those things, fam. We were yelling about this from the get-go. And, when it comes to Katie, I don't want to make any insinuations whatsoever, but I think a lot of people, not just Katie Halper, when it comes to a situation, they kind of feel it out to make sure it's okay, politically, in their bubble, rather than say, okay, let's just speak it like it is. Because when you speak it like it is, sometimes you're not going to make the friends that you need to keep going and not be censored. So therefore you're just kind of watching what you're saying instead of just speaking the truth, by the way. And that's what happens. You want to be sure it's okay with your clan first before you tell the truth, and making sure it's acceptable to your clan and not telling the truth, just the outright truth sometimes is going to come back and bite you in the ass. It really will.
So guys, we're going to go to Rokfin only, and this is the title. I'll just go ahead and show the fam the title of the next segment.
By the way, fam, I just want to say one of the oldest producers of the Convo Couch, been around for a long time, Arem. Yes. Glory gave me a look because I stole Steve's line over there, because Steve always says, what I'm saying, the oldest producer of Slow News Day. What's his name? Rob Janot, right? So I had to do it to AREM because, Steve's on to something. You guys are the producers here. We don't have that big money interest behind us that's the wind in our sails telling us what to do, what I'm saying? We don't have that. We are completely funded by you guys, and you guys have been amazing. There's 165 people now on the Rokfin. There are almost 300 on the YouTubes. Get on over to the Rokfin, ROKFIN. What's the name of the title, fam? Did you want to read it?
Well, no, I wanted to show it on the screen. So we're going to talk about the CDC dropping the mask recommendations, and also the Pfizer having issues with child vaccines. Who would have called that out? Jesus Christ.
I know, right?
This is straight now in the mainstream media. We were going to put it on YouTube, but because in case fams say something,
Well, fam,
you gotta be careful.
There's no left-wing channels talking about that, because if you think that way, you're obviously a right-winger.
I don't know who you're
Trumper.
imitating now, but it's really weird. I'm trying to figure out.
OMG, please. I knew you were a Trumper. Guys, we're leaving YouTube in 5, in
We love you.
4,
Sorry.
in 3,
Follow
in
us on
2,
Rokfin.
in 1. See you later. Thank you.